Moses didn't know anyone in Midian. It was just the furthest place from Pharaoh. So while he's in Midian, he helps a family out, and Moses ultimately ends up marrying, and he settles in Midian. Now, one day, Moses is leading flock in the wilderness in the canyons of the lower Sinai, and something strange catches his eye. We're in chapter 3, the burning bush. It's a bush burning with fire, yet the bush was not consumed. And God calls on Moses in this moment and says that he needs to return to Egypt. It says, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Wow. Really? Like the very people that he just fled from, the reason he's in Midian is because of these people, and God's like, hey, why don't you go back and save them again? So Moses does what we all do. He questions God. He's like, I'm nobody. Like, who am I? And God responds, listen, I will be with you. Isn't that dope that you can be a nobody and God's going to turn you into somebody? God's going to be with you. And so then Moses says, well, who shall I tell them sent me? And God responds, I am the everlasting existing one. And then Moses is like, well, what if they don't listen to me? And God responds, listen, I'll give you a staff, show miraculous signs with this staff. They'll have to believe. And then Moses is like, well, I'm a horrible speaker. And God's like, great, I created you. I'll teach you what to say. Notice how Moses is viewing himself. First, he responds, I'm a nobody. And because I'm a nobody, nobody will listen to me. And I'm a horrible speaker. I want to make note here that the way we view ourselves is different than how God sees us, because God is saying, I'm going to redeem you and use you for my purposes. If you notice, if you're paying attention closely, I put this here, Moses leading flock in the wilderness. If you've read the Bible story before, if you haven't, we'll get into it. But in the book of Numbers, Moses is leading, ultimately, the shepherd of God's people, taking them through the wilderness. That's in the book of Numbers. So God will redeem what you did in your former life. God's going to redeem it and use it for his purposes. It kind of goes back to that saying, if you've ever heard it, God does not call the qualified, God qualifies the called.